Let's go. Oh my
That is
gosh.
one. That's one badass intro. Ba 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 ba. Kind of reminds me of like the Terminator soundtrack.
And then it cuts to my face, and I'm like, "Aw." Hey,
Yeah.
we're
Oh
live.
damn. Oh damn.
Let's do this, man.
What's
I'm
going
so
on,
pumped.
Aaron?
I'm
Aaron,
so pumped.
live from Boston now, right?
I'm in Boston. Yeah, I'm working on another Walking Dead spinoff, Dead City Season 2.
Woo.
Let's do this. It's the Maggie and Negan spinoff of The Walking Dead. It'll be my 5th year on a Walking Dead show.
Unbelievable.
Man, it's weird to be back because you and I lived in Boston I lived there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun in Boston, went to Emerson. And today I went back to the old stomping grounds and don't recognize one bit of it.
What was it like? Was it everything you'd hoped it to be going back after all these years?
No, because I was like, it's going to unlock all these memories. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know where I am. I'm lost. Oh, that building. And then it's like you go to all the places that you thought you remembered and you're like, it doesn't look the same at all. And it's not jogging anything. Oh no, did I forget going to college? All of it's been wiped. My memory's been wiped from years of stress and hard work.
So have you started in? Like, how far are you into this
We're
process
just
here with the new spinoff?
we're going into meetings, man. We've been hard meetings. I landed on Monday and we've just been going to meetings nonstop and trying to figure out how we're going to do this damn thing. It's going to be great.
You're going to knock it out of the park. I mean, you always do.
Thank you, man. But let's get into it. Let's dive in. This block of horror off
Yeah.
the block with Mediate and McLane. And we're going to break down. You guys have been doing some amazing work voting
Amazing.
for some pitches that we have thrown out. But so let's read them. And the voting was super close. It was crazy close.
I mean,
It was like
one, right? Or
1 point.
the winner won
One.
by one.
It was
One
one
vote.
vote. Yeah, the winner won. But we'll get to the winner in a second. Let's start down. So the last horror show. I'm going to read them out of order. The last horror show, number 5, in a dystopian future where horror movies have evolved into a battle royale competition. Elite mass killer, the Mangler, a 13-time champion, faces his toughest challenge yet. Outsmarting a fierce team of young contenders in a brutal asymmetrical death match, broadcasted globally, his final battle in a world craving bloodshed. This was like Hunger Games meets Jason Voorhees. That's what what we were going for there.
Oh, I love it. In a world. That's my favorite line. In a world.
It would have been fun. I think but that one did not get the most votes. The next one we will read is End Rails. You ready for this, man?
Rails. Do it, Aaron. You do the next one too.
And Rails, Undead Express. No, I'm not going to read it in an old cowboy voice. Do it in an old cowboy voice? No, okay. End Rails, Undead Express barrels down the tracks as an exhilarating and high-stakes zombie western that unfolds entirely within the confines of a speeding train. The narrative kicks off as the locomotive transports a substantial shipment of gold to a new bank out west. However, the journey takes a perilous turn when an enigmatic and mysterious zombie outbreak erupts within the train's compartments. The passengers and crew, initially unaware of the impending horror, find themselves trapped in a nightmare scenario as the undead menace spreads, creating a tense and confined battleground within the carriages. Yeah, that's End Rails. That was going to be fun. Zombie Western, a little bit of great train robbery in there. Why not?
We need a good zombie Western. We need it. I mean, I can't recall like a really kick-ass, maybe Pale Door recent memory, but like Rails, I'm on board for this. I'm on board, but it didn't win, so
yeah,
we gotta wait for the next vote. But I want to keep these like in our development back pocket because they're still gold. I mean, this still be a lot of fun.
Yeah, hit me with Motor City Muckman, Pat. You want to read this one?
Didn't you just do Motor City Muckman?
No, I did End Rails.
No, you did Motor City Muckman before End Rails.
No, I did Last Horror Show.
Oh, because they both, you know what? They both start with a dystopian.
Yeah, a dystopian nightmare. It must have been on my brain.
All right, here we go. There's a lot of dystopia going on here tonight.
Yes,
Motor City Muckman. A dystopian nightmare engulfs what was once Detroit, now a wasteland, plagued by grotesque slime mutants. Amidst this post-apocalyptic chaos, a brave woman embarks on a perilous quest through decaying urban ruins and mutant-infested tunnels to secure vital medicine for her dying mother. This harrowing survival tale blends horror with a post-apocalyptic drama wrapped in an 80s throwback aesthetic, exploring the extremes of human resilience in the face of monstrous adversaries and the collapse of civilization itself. Love it.
You ever see that movie?
It's very dystopian. There's a little like Last of Us vibes going on there. I like it.
Did you ever see the movie Screamers?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Very evocative of Screamers.
When I saw Screamers, that's what put my head into what if they were like creepy zombies? I love the tunnel aspect of it. Screamers was a good movie.
Love it.
Right.
I love the stakes there. I mean, another one that didn't win, but yeah. I love like the constant stakes here. She's got to secure the vital medicine that like keeps that clock ticking. It's great. It's a good one. So let's keep that one in our back pocket too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. I love the. Yeah, that has some fun things. Anytime you can mix up zombies too, like make them slime mutants and like oil fields and stuff. I think that's.
Oh yeah, Slime City stuff. It's great.
Hit us with more Misfortune, our runner up.
I love this one. Love this one. I was rooting for it. It didn't quite make it, but I think the best did win at the end of the day. But Misfortune, in the heart of the boardwalk's mystique lies the Misfortune Machine, a legendary contraption whispered about in hushed tones. It's said that it grants wishes. However, when this mystical apparatus becomes the target of nefarious forces seeking its power for dark purposes, a race against time ensues. As the battle of control unfolds, the line between destiny and destruction blurs, leaving the fates of those who dare to make a wish hanging in the balance.
Dun, dun, dun.
Very cool. Big meets like thinner meets fun, very fun. I like the big kind of feeling with it.
When you and I talked about this is like, what if Big had like 5 sequels and you just jumped in at the 5th one? Like,
yeah.
There are evil forces that want this machine, and what are they wishing for? Once you realize what it can do, we're not wishing for fun things anymore. It's not just money. We're wishing for like crazy superpowers and to smite my enemies. Like I think if you really explored this outside of like the big sort of framework, this isn't the first time we find it, because most of the times when you have a movie about granting wishes, genies, magic wish granting contraptions, it's always somebody discovers it and has to deal with it, and wishes aren't always what you think. But if you just dove in much later into that story where people are like, yeah, it grants wishes, I get it. Yeah, some of the wishes go bad, I get it. What are people doing with it for good or evil? And I just love this idea of like this. It's like a black market dirty bomb that like people are trying to get their hands on, and
it
like
becomes like an artifact. There is like this. The black market aspect gives it that feeling of sort of that Indiana Jones Lost Ark kind of thing that everybody wants, but everybody wants something that is destructive. So it's for, horrifying means, for nefarious means. I love that. I love, and you perfect summation too, jumping into like a big in the 5th iteration, the like 5th sequel of it.
Right. Really 100%. I think that would just be a really fun thing. So this is also going to stay in our back pocket. I like the idea. We might do an episode about this, maybe a one-off episode where we just dive into this one. This is a fun one. But the one that won with 1 vote squeaked in. I have to give a little bit of a shout out first, though. So about a week ago, when we were doing the half-hour horror with Aaron McLane, a fun idea came up from our very own Michelle Jordan. She's in the chat right now. So this is a story by Michelle Jordan. She gets a story by credit right in the top. And it was such a funny idea. Everybody just jumped on and was like, it turned into like a fun, like a running joke throughout the week. People have been doing Discord graphics for it. People have been doing story points for it. And I was like, we got to bring it up to the stage. We got to do it. So the number one, the movie that we're going to break down tonight is Weed Gnome. And I added a tagline, Lawn of the Dead. Because why not? So Michelle Jordan.
Lawn of the Dead. It's brilliant, Aaron.
Thank you for coming up and sharing that on Spaces last week. And hopefully we do it justice tonight when we break it down and make it into a movie with the help of our audience. Guys, chime in anywhere. If you're, anywhere in here, jump in and just type in ideas. We'll take it, we'll discuss it. It might end up in the script, it might end up somewhere else, but we're going to talk about it and we're going to have fun with it. And there are no bad ideas. And there's just anything goes. So let's get wild with it. So Weed Gnome, let me read the pitch. I got it right here. This is what we kind of came up with to start us off. Jerome, your garden variety lawn gnome, stoner lawn gnome, spends his day blissfully high, tending to his mushroom crop. But Jerome's wow gets yucked when a tainted strain of marijuana begins turning users into homicidal maniacs. Now, with a harsh buzz and a ticking clock, Jerome must uncover the secrets of this wicked weed before his high wears off and the whole world becomes couch locked.
First, I got to ask something about this, Aaron. Is this like, what is the vehicle that this is in? Is it like stop motion? Is it animated? Is it is it CG? What is this thing? I'm just trying to get a grasp on like how the gnome is.
That would be super fun. Let's throw it out to the audience because, like, I love the idea of. In my mind, it was like, Patton Oswalt as a gnome, like green screened into the universe with special effects. But like, if we had it as stop motion, that could be pretty. Like, that'd be sick.
I mean,
I'm down for stop motion. Like anything that you can do. Do you remember that movie Monkey Bone?
I do remember Monkey Bone, but you know, in speaking about Monkey Bone, I think there's a world here where we might want to play with some sort of integration of the real world, like the bigger world, and the gnome world. It starts off maybe stop motion, but then it elevates into like bringing humankind into it. Like their world is there, and then there's the human world outside that. And maybe like when you get it into a little bit, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you kind of realize that like they're in a world of their own, but in a bigger world. And maybe it's the lawn. It's like, hey, in the Honey I Shrunk the Kids kind of way, it's like they look up and it's like, well, wait a second, we're actually in the real world still. We're just in the garden, you know?
It's 100%. Because here's you got to come up with some rules for a lawn gnome, and a big piece of it is when. Because when people see I love the idea of the lawn gnome. Somebody's like, did the lawn gnome just move? Was he posed like that a second ago? Did you move the lawn gnome? I love that idea, but like, what are the rules? Because however that lawn gnome moves or appears, there could be something really cool to play with where it's like, that actually adds to a conflict later. Like, for example, if he can only move when a human being doesn't see him, and he can run around, but the second somebody looks at him, he's frozen stone.
Right.
That could actually be really interesting if later on he's stuck. And then you could also go into this idea where it's like, nobody can see him move until they get really high.
That is very smart. That's a twist. I like that. Like they have, and I think it would be even more interesting if the people who own the house, right? Let's think about the characters first, right? Because in our world too, and in the world of writing and putting together film, I'm always thinking, and Aaron's always thinking about our characters, right? We don't even start in on the first act until we understand who are the key players, who are the protagonists. Neighbor secretly spraying the crap to sabotage the market. Love it. Stop motion, great. I'm just looking at some of these comments come through, but you have to, let's figure out our characters, right? So you've got like the gnome world, and then I think you have the human world. In my brain, I'm thinking that whoever owns this home is not just like a family of straight-laced vanilla folk. I think there may be stoners, a la like idle hands, kind of. They're living in this house, right? And they're stoners, and I think the house is an old frat house, you know.
What about this? Like this. Here's a pitch. You have parents who are secretly stoners, and they don't want their teenage son knowing it, but the teenage son is also a stoner, and they're all just sneaking around and lying to each other. And a big part of it is not so much that they're trying to condone it, but coming to the realization, like, you're gonna encounter it, kid. Like, you just got to be smart about it. Don't be an idiot. And like the fact that like it's this generational thing, like if you bridge that gap with this generational idea, of parents coming to terms, with marijuana or whatever and their kids. I think there's something interesting there. You could also have like, because yeah, like what are the parents doing? How many kids are there?
I like this. I like this because it's a good dichotomy. It presents stakes and kind of crazy interactions between the family and the kid, and then the gnome, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, how I'm sort of envisioning this based on your idea, which I really think we should go for because it's just great. It's really smart, and the characters could be really diverse and really varied. But I think it starts in the world of Gnome World.
Yes.
And people think, right? The audience is going to think this isn't a stop motion movie, and this is how the movie's going to go. It's like the stoner gnome, blah 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 blah, and then not like too long into it, boom, we see the family is there, and the gnomes like they freeze, and then
He
all of a sudden the
freezes,
family
yeah.
is like the father's bacon, and he's coming outside, and he's standing in the middle of the night on the trying to hide from one of his other family members, and
Yeah.
the gnome freezes, and then we go into real world, and it's like, okay, this is the kind of movie I'm here to expect. I think we got to get into that really quick, establishing the two worlds, like right in the first 5 pages.
100%. And I don't think we ever want to explain where the gnome come from. Let's
No.
just assume.
Not.
Gnomes are real. Yeah. They live in this world.
Yep.
If you see one, he's just frozen because he can't move when you see him. And then I think we just play with that right off the bat. And he's just like, what's his character? Is Jerome the gnome? Is Jerome the gnome, like, is he a curmudgeon? Is he a happy-go-lucky guy? What is?
I have a feeling that, like, in my mind, Jerome the gnome is sort of bored. I mean, like, if you were a gnome living in the same damn garden and for all your life, wouldn't you be bored to shit? Like, I would be bored as all hell, and I'd be like, and maybe there's a side story there. We have to kind of develop what are the stakes for Jerome, right?
Yeah.
And the family, and where does the like horror element kind of come into it, right?
Yeah.
We got to see what, like, this. First off, let's figure out the stakes and figure out how each of these characters need to do. I think they eventually probably need to like team up in some way, or there's some sort of a camaraderie where the world of the family needs to team up with Jerome, and they need to.
The gnome doesn't know his own backstory.
Evil, like, forces. Maybe there's like an underworld of gnomes that are like.
Well, this is where the evil weed comes in, because I was saying, like, anytime you do a scary stoner movie, you're going to be looking into, I mean, the OG stoner horror movie, which is Reefer Madness. Why did I blank? Reefer Madness is like the OG like horror movie. It was meant as a PSA to be like, it's terrifying. You will become a murderer. Ooh, a gnome curse.
Gnome curse. That's a really good one. And Jeremy, we're sort of on the same wavelength here. I'm thinking of two things. Like, in the curse kind of world, I'm also thinking, what if the son, right, is an experimental kind of grower, right? And he's experimenting with growing this like very special strand of weed in the backyard, and this strand somehow, it is, to Jeremy's point, maybe it's like he has to like say an incantation over the weed to like make it come to some sort of a crazy, give it the mythological thing, and then the weed becomes this like evil entity in itself, and then it starts growing. And then,
are you saying that Jerome causes it? Like, he accidentally causes the evil weed to happen?
No, I'm saying that maybe the son does in the family, and Jerome is like, Jerome's going about his day in the garden, right? Like,
if Jerome's a stoner gnome, I love this though. If he's growing this strain of like ferryman, world of the Fae.
Great
Gabanomicon.
I love that. I think that needs to be the name of it, like the Gabanomicon. I mean, we're in the world of like silly here.
So
That's great.
if Jerome is trying to grow the greatest weed gnome ever, gnome weed ever, and somehow one of the our protagonists, our human protagonists, stumble upon it, but
Mhm,
like they don't know what you're supposed to do about it because it's
mhm,
this mythical shit, and
mhm.
it's because I love the idea of it starts. It's one of two things. Does it turn into an entity of itself like Audrey 2, feed me, Seymour, or does it just make them crazy and do bad shit?
I think I'm leaning towards ingested, and cursed ingested only when you smoke it is when it possess, like, because if you think about it, that's a vehicle for like something cursed and possessed to enter your system, right? It's an
Sure.
easy, like, you're token it and it enters your body and maybe it possesses you, right? The Cabonomicon, if it's cursed with this, it possesses anyone who smokes it. And
I
now
rolled
they're
it up.
fighting this evil force that is, and they have to destroy this thing that's gotten out. They have to destroy the weed, and then they have to destroy themselves. And I think that could be really fun. This could turn into a really gory Dead Alive kind of world where everybody's smoking in token and the family's got it and they don't know if they've got that weed or they've got their weed and they're all confused.
Well, and I think it's funny too, because like, if you go and find it in the woods and it's like this crazy color, color out of space style, it's like bright purple leaves and, it's just
Yeah,
dank as shit.
I love
And
it.
then it causes people. So what does it do when you smoke it? And I think we need to decide because it needs to spread and get out of control.
I think it needs. I First off, I think the smoke when it's inhaled is just you smoke, it's inhaled, and then when it's exhaled, I think I'm envisioning a color instead of just white smoke coming back out, and people are like, "Whoa, holy shit! This isn't white smoke. This is like a purplish, greenish neon. Like it's like the what's a movie like? I'm thinking Witches. You know that movie Witches,
Yeah.
where like the green shit comes out of their mouth, smoke. It's like that kind of noxious smoke, and you know that it's entered your system, and it's the entity has entered you.
Purple haze all in my
So, hey,
brain.
great,
Uh, I love this. Okay.
right?
So, and what does it do? Because the thing is our protagonists are going to encounter it. And here's a fun idea. Here's a fun idea. If it makes you like a homicidal maniac or makes you crazy, you could have this hilarious thing where the family members inside have ingested it from one way or another, where it's like, I accidentally ate the brownies, I purposefully smoked a bowl of this or rolled a joint of it.
Right.
And Jerome the gnome has to like keep distracting them to get them into different parts so that they don't kill each other.
Mhm.
Like, how? So here's the thing: to start off early, you need someone who is not a protagonist to encounter it to show the effects,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Like
Someone
some,
needs to be sacrificed on the onset very quickly,
yeah, and
and then be dismembered or something. Like they need to meet their doom early on, so we understand the the stakes and the method of which this works, the rules behind the you know Cabonomicon. Canonomicon.
oh, so here's something that just popped up. Mike was like, "What if it's owned by a scientist?"
Hmm.
And Oppenheimer and he works for the government, and the Cabonomicon combo releases to the world like a pandemic, just like how acid was released in the '60s, man.
Yeah, I kind of like that, but I kind of like it in the way that in Evil Dead the tape played. Instead of the tape, it's this scientist slash archaeologist who's brought this thing back from the
It's a
net
plant.
another place, and he's brought the ingredients, or it's a book, right? And
Well,
it's taught him how to grow this thing that's only grown in this
that,
region of Haiti or something.
that's why I keep coming back to it. It has to be Jerome's weed plant that he grows, and they take it from him, and he's like, "You took my plant." Like, it's magical. He's magical. So if he's growing
Yeah.
magic weed, if he's growing this supernatural shit, and they stumble on it and harvest it themselves and start growing it themselves, and he's like, "Oh, I'm fucked. Everybody's gonna start tripping out, and I don't know what it's going to do to humans. But like, if we start it with like, I don't know, like a hiker in the woods. You got a hiker in the woods. He comes across like this crazy colored plant, and he lights it up and then goes batshit crazy. Like that, is that your cold open?
I think so. I think if we give the hiker in the woods a hike-get, like a girlfriend, it could be a lot more fun because we give them something to attack. So it's like they've turned on their loved one.
Ooh.
I think it could be a really fun, gory thing. So it's like two backpackers, whatever, hiking out, boyfriend, girlfriend. They stumble on it. They're kind of stony themselves. And like, whoa, what's this? This is definitely, let's see what kind of strain we got. One of them smoke. She's like, you try it first, right? Like I'm not trying, I don't try stuff I have never seen before. And he's like, come on, man. Like, how bad could it, I want to try it out. You're pussy, right? So he smokes it. He turns, purple smoke comes out. And he's like, whoa, and at first he's like, this is the most amazing feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. He loves it. The first ingestion, she's like, I've never seen, this kind of thing come out, right, with the purple smoke. And then after a little bit, he starts turning, and then you see maybe like the veins and like he starts turning into a possessed thing, and then chases her down out of the woods, and
a possessed thing. But let's have them as they evolve into like worse and worse pot zombies. They start turning into like you brought it up the other day. It was the moss growing on them from Creepshow. They start turning into like plant creatures. Like the more it's ingested, the more it consumes you, and you got purple veins, and you're turning planty.
I love that. There's something there too about like returning to the earth as the thing, and like when you're destroyed or when you like decompose, you become the thing, and then you're ingested by someone else. There's like this natural cycle, like the people that are getting buried and and then there's a real thing where people are getting buried and then they're burying themselves, and a tree comes up. Like
cordyceps. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about how people are planting. Yeah, planting themselves.
They're planting themselves and then they're growing themselves back. It's like you're decomposed back into the earth, like you're kind of melted, like the Evil Dead, kind of when they melt and all like claymation, you get blah, blah. But then
there's a claymation,
and then you go into the ground, and then you're regenerated and that's actually where it actually comes from. I think is just humans that become possessed and they return to the earth and then get up and then smoked. Like that's so fucked up, right?
I love that. And so here's how okay. So you have the two people, they're walking through the neighborhood, right? And they're heading towards the woods to hike through the woods. And the trail goes right past our protagonist's house, and they walk past the gnome, and the gnome has a little shovel. And they're like, they keep going, they pay no attention, they go into the woods. We have our episode, they slaughter. And then it like cuts to like more flour growing out of their corpses, and the camera like pans around, and we find Jerome the gnome, and he's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then we spend some time with him, Weed Gnome, and he's toking up and he's doing his thing and he's trying to clean up this mess. And he's like, oh no. Like
yeah. And I love that because it's so natural, right? It's something that was meant for their world has gotten into like the human world, and now shit's going down
because he's
it
breaking
wasn't meant. Because when he smokes it, it's just like fucking great, right?
Yeah.
But when a human smokes it, it's not meant for human consumption, right?
No, not at all. Exactly. They're smoking fairy weed from the Fae, the cross shades of the universe, And this is where you get to have, so he thinks he's cleaned it up, and he's back to growing his crops. And then this is when the house that he's in, maybe they move into it, and you have your horticulturalist, that's plant doctor, right? Horticulturalist father, an artist mother, and then their kid who they think is super straight laced. And the kid's like almost like compared to the parents, like they've raised him because they're terrified that he's going to get in trouble, get kicked out of school, all the classic parent tropes of like, oh, this is why you shouldn't do drugs. But then secretly they're both doing it too. And the kid, who apparently is super straight laced, is secretly doing it as well, and they're all just lying to each other. And it's like, I think the arc of our characters is coming to terms with being truthful to each other as a family. But yes, Leprechaun 3, the one where he just starts rhyming for no reason. I love that one in Vegas.
I take back something I said at the beginning of this. I said that Jerome was bored by where he is, but I take it back because I think it'd be more interesting if he's not bored. But I think it'd be fun. So my girlfriend is obsessed with gnomes, like those gnomes with the hats that like are all around the house. She collects these damn things, right? What if the mother is a gnome nut? Like she collects gnomes,
Yes.
and the garden is so well curated. It's like it's any gnome would want to live there, and it's like, well, why is Jerome there? Because like this is the best fucking gnome. This woman's the foremost gnome expert, and she's got tables set out and a kitchen and a gnome like lounge chairs and their own house. Like she's a gnome obsessed, and he's like, because you have to solve the problem. Why does Jerome want to be there, and why isn't he leaving, and why is he growing this weed and trying to hide it there? Because
is he the only living gnome though?
No, I think she's got. No, I think there are other No, I think he's got friends. Like there are a few other gnomes that are like. I don't think it's just Jerome hanging out and like it's boring. You got to have some buddies. Like maybe it's like maybe it's like a stoner tribe. Maybe there's 3 of them or something. Like maybe it's like the idle, like I said, idle hands, but like the gnomes are the idle hands.
It's like the Smurfs, but yeah. But think about this. Like, here's where you have like one Smurf who's like anti, and he's like, no, stop it. Like, yeah.
Jeremy's right. It's a gnome village in the lawn. Like anyone who passes by this place is like, oh, the gnome lady lives there.
And here's what's funny is her husband can keep being like, did you get another one? She's like, I swear I didn't. But gnomes keep appearing.
I don't know where it came. And what if it's not? Like, what if, there are gnomes that start showing and she's like, I swear to God, I don't know where it came from. Like there's a gnome and that could be interesting. Like I don't know, there's something there because I think there has to be, I think the big stakes are in the human world. Like once it gets,
this is great too, because this is where you can actually exemplify like the gnomes have different stoner personalities, because like obviously there's the Cheech and Chong stereotype, and then you have like one who's like, she's like a gnome who does it to get really industrious. Like she tokes up and like is writing her gnome memoirs, and like and like just like there's so many, and like what gets high and likes to do music, and like you can play with like stoner stereotypes here because there's not just one anymore. There's so many variations of this, and we've all met stoners of different ilk. It's not just Cheech and Chong anymore.
Yeah,
it's not just you're like, whoa man, I'm so baked. It's not just a hippie thing either.
No, yeah, totally. I mean, so we've established that great
brainy bong.
Good cold open. Progressing, we understand the 2 worlds right off the bat. We understand what the effects on the weed have on human consumption. The goal, right, is for Jerome because he feels responsible, to try to stop this thing somehow. Mm-hmm. So there has to be a point in the end of Act 1 where Jerome and one of the family members, he teams up with, who do we want that to be? Is it a sister? Is it the toner guy? Whoever that is, they have to team up. Is it a brother and sister? I don't know. But they team up with Jerome to try to figure out how to stop this thing, but it's kind of out of control,
100%. Like the whole town starts getting rocked because here, check this out, bro. Okay, so the I can't say that word tonight. Horticulturalist dad, Horton here's a who dad. He finds the weed and he starts like cloning it and starts selling it to the town.
Oh, great.
This is what makes it spread faster. Like the dad becomes this like Breaking Bad drug dealer, and he's like, this stuff's perfect. And
So has he tried? Has he tried it? And has he? I mean, he's obviously turned. If he's tried it, like, does it? How long?
He's slowly turning into a plant. Like he's becoming the antagonist.
Got it.
Is there a cure?
I think it's up to Jerome to figure that out.
Yeah, like can their magic because I don't see the dad as a bad guy. He's just an idiot who fucks it up. And he's not.
I like him turning into like the like nefarious thing. Like he becomes like this superhuman. It feels very Goosebumpsy to
of
me.
Course it does. Hell
like
yeah.
The basement where like the plants and stuff. Like it's very Goosebumpsy. And I like that. I like that he becoming this like Breaking Bad, that the Walter White of this substance.
Remember the movie? God damn it! What is the movie that's in black and white? When people start finding sex, they can see color. What is that movie? No, come on. Kirsten Dunst is in it. Kirsten Dunst and
black and white.
Yeah. Oh, what is this movie?
Oh, Melancholia.
No, is it? No. Oh,
I don't know, man. I don't watch a lot of Kirsten.
But in my mind, it's older. In my mind, this is what it's like. Is like you're also telling it's like, look, everybody in your town, like
so
lots of people.
That's not Kirsten Dunst. That's Reese Witherspoon. Are you thinking Pleasantville?
I'm thinking Pleasantville.
Okay.
Where Pleasantville, yes. Okay. So if you have Pleasantville, you know how everybody started turning into color? Yes. Everybody starts turning into plant monsters because they're all smoking. The gym teacher's doing it. The bus driver's doing it. Everybody in your town is smoking weed and you don't know it because it's like.
I love it. It feels like The Faculty. And I like that. Like the town starts turning like or disturbing behavior or one of those things. Yeah. But I think if we're going to do it that way, we need to reestablish the rules because we can't have the first person turn that quickly. I don't.
It's how much you do of it.
Okay. I think this guy's got like a fucking. He's like loaded it up in his some sort of bong. He like takes the bong out of the backpack. And he just like, whoa. And she's like, don't do that much, like right off the bat. We don't know what this strain is, man. And he's just like, it's like, and it just.
I'm not feeling anything. Yeah, because like I think it's one of those things. Like this is where you could update the the lesson learned, where it's like, look, it's turned out it's not that big of a deal, but it can take over your life if you let it. It can be as bad as you let it be, and anything that takes over your life and you would choose that over your friends and family is a problem. And I think that's the updated lesson learned is like when people get obsessed with this specific strain, they turn into monsters. But like, you take a little bit, your eyes turn purple and you're like, ah.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's great. And so now we're what act are we in here? We're like definitely getting into act 2. So we've established all of this stuff.
Moderation.
It's starting to take, he finds it and he's like, what's this shit? Maybe he like does he's wandering. Because I don't think it's grown right in the open, obviously in the backyard.
No, it's deeper in the woods because Jerome's hiding it too. Jerome's hiding it from the other gnomes. This is his stash, man. My stash. Like
the father finds it first, and then it's nice because then the kids have to. And is there one kid? It's the father, the mother, the gnome collector, the son, and the daughter. Is there a daughter?
There could be.
Because if then the son might find it, and then the daughter find. I think it's like. I think that like they stumble on the father's stash and he's got this lab, but I think that's further in. And I think maybe we do a little. Have you seen the movie Bigger Than Life where he's got like the it's what's that drug, a cortisone, like it's in the 50s or 60s and it's all about like guy who's got cortisone injections and he slowly turns and on his family and he's like going mad. I think it's like. Yeah, it's a great movie, Bigger Than Life. It's terrific. But I think in this way, the father, it's an awesome movie. It's horrific. It's great. But in that way that the cortisone had that effect, I think he's gradually testing this and seeing the effects, and he's getting increasingly more weird around his family, like in a Jack Torrancy kind of way. He's devolving, and the kids are like, "What's going on with Dad?" You know. And then they find the stuff, and then they realize it's been sold. He's selling it in town, and then the town's going weird. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? I almost think the son and daughter need to become, in a Goosebumps way as well, the protagonists in the real world that end up having to team up with Jerome.
Jerome the Gnome.
Jerome the Gnome. They have to team up with him. It's like, how do we stop this shit? You know? It's like Hocus Pocus. Like, how do we put the book, you know, the spells back in the book? How do we get it back? How do we turn our town back to normal? Because shit's going wrong. And then Jerome's like, we gotta go to like this place, and we gotta get this book, or we gotta get this spell. Like, we gotta have the reverse spell. I don't know, but there's some sort of thing they need to do to reverse the curse, you know? And then the father's going nuts. The town's going nuts. I think even the mom goes nuts because, like, the father shares it with the mom, and he's kind of seducing her with it, and she's like getting all placated. But it's the son and the daughter that have to team up against the town with Jerome in order to put this to bed and finally reclaim their town and get it back to normal.
So it kind of fucks up our cold open. But what if it's not? Doesn't turn you into a maniac until the dad starts splicing it. Like, he tries to make it stronger, and his tampering with it is what turns it into the evil thing.
Yeah, maybe he is like that scientist, and he's reverse engineering the stuff and to turn it into something more potent. Like, maybe like he had a weird experience with it, but like he's reverse engineering it, and then he's like, "Wow, I have something here. I'm going to change the world with this strain."
So, because I think now you kind of, I mean, you lose your murderous intro, but I think we can come up with a way to make it happen quicker. Where by page 10, the dad is splicing the strain and doing crazy shit with it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's still a cold open somewhere in there. Maybe where we learn that this exists in some mythical world or something. I don't know. It doesn't have to be anything too complex, but as long as we understand that this is out there.
You just straight up do the OG Reefer Madness bit where the two hikers find the weed, they smoke it, they get really high, and then do something. Because in Reefer Madness, everybody, people are jumping out of windows and stuff. Like, you make them do something that's hysterically uncharacteristic, where they like walk into traffic or something. You're just like,
I love it.
No.
Here's how we can have so much more fun with this than just like it's not a standard town. It's most fun if this town is like very vanilla, very lame. Like, maybe it's in the middle America. It's the most boring place you could ever live, and people are just boring. Maybe it is like Pleasantville. Like, everybody does the same thing at the same time. It's like the most boring place to live. Even the kids, the brother and sister.
It's that show Weeds.
Yeah, it's like, this is boring. This place is fucking boring, you know? And it's more fun when people start getting different and turning, because it's like it's turning the town up on its head like Pleasantville, and it's breaking this norm and breaking everyone out of this monotony. But it's not good. And then they're like, shit, you know, this is even worse than, and it's got to be a small town too, because we don't want people like kind of hearing about it. We want it to be like 50, 100, like 75, 100 miles away from like a big civilization kind of place. One of those really middle America, Kansas kind of towns.
Yeah, Kansas, where weed is still illegal. And then, so this is something that could be very
that's kind of interesting. If it's illegal there in the state, it's like, damn, you know, like, we got something here, you know, we got something in our little town that right here in what's that Music Man?
Oh, right here in Mississippi.
Right here in Crystal City or whatever it is. Like,
yeah. River City, right here in River City.
River City, right here. Yeah.
I love the idea that this grows into something where Jerome the Gnome and his gnome pals can do like hilarious like crossovers. Like, they fight Frankenstein, they meet. You know, you could have Jerome the Gnome do all sorts of hilarious stuff. And it's like I think there is this great moment where it's like you know, everybody's against it. The town sheriff is against it, but he's still token up at home. It's like everybody in the town is doing it, and being hypocritical about it, which I think is another funny thing to tackle when you're doing any sort of substance parable. Is the hypocrisy of the conservative nature of America.
Yeah, I love this. Like, and I love that it's like increasingly, gradually getting. Like, I think there's people are doing more than others, and then they're attacking other people. And you've had these great scenes on the onset where, like, in the town, other people are murdering people, like behind, and they're hiding them in places. And then all of a sudden, bodies start popping out of places. Like, oh, there's people are going missing.
But
People
they're
are just
growing stuff out of them.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you start seeing it growing up in different places in town, and that's like because they can't find the people. What if they disappear and they truly are committed to the ground? They're decomposed, and then all of a sudden you see more weed, and it's like, whoa, like it's growing. People are growing it, and what's going on here? Why is it growing all over the place? It's them being grown, and they're the whole town's smoking each other.
Yeah. And then it like they get like crazy about it. So then I think it's really funny because then the kids are like trying to get their dad. They find out that their dad's on it. Their mom, we need to put the mom in some sort of peril. So like if the dad is he turns into our sort of big bad, and like the mom is in some sort of peril, and the kids were like, we need to save our parents and the town. Anybody who's decomposed though. They're decomposed and turned into a plant. They aren't coming back.
It's brilliant.
I love that. And then him and his gnome friends, they need to get together with the family and go and stop the dad. And like, I think it's as simple as like, if Jerome is sprinkling fairy dust on this stuff to make it like, he just needs to give him a big like tiger powder blast in the face with it.
Yeah. It's great. I think, and I think if we want to make this kind of epic, we make it so the journey, because it has to turn into a journey in Act 2, where Jerome and the kids have to Jerome knows how to get rid of it. It's not easy, but they have to go on a small journey, Lord of the Ringsy type journey.
You got to get to the high school,
find the scroll or find the Kurt thing. They know where to do it. They've got to travel. It turns into like a buddy picture with Jerome and the kids.
So they got to go. They got to go to the Fae. So in Dungeons and Dragons, if anybody's into this, you find a ring of rocks, and if you say the right thing, it teleports you to the land of the Fae, which is where fairies live and gnomes live and goblins and stuff. So the kids go into the Fae, into the realm, and they find the antidote. They bring it back. The town is overgrown. Like time has passed. Everything's crazy. It's purple crazy weed everywhere, and the dad is holed up at the high school's greenhouse, or I don't know, a greenhouse in town, and he's just like he is a maniacal plant monster at this point. He's got the mom captive, and the whole everybody, because like what if the mom like doesn't smoke? She's like quit, and she's like, nah, it makes me paranoid, I'm not gonna do it anymore. But like she doesn't care. She's like, just not my thing. But then the dad is I love this idea of like him growing out like crazy like tentacles, and then vines. That's what they call them.
I love it. And I kind of like the idea if he knows what happened, like a Killer Clowns from Outer Space, where they had all the cotton candy. Like I'm seeing the gymnasium or somewhere is the Clowns from Outer Space kind of like room where there's all this weed growing. There's like these grow lights, and he's like, he knows how it works, and he's become superhuman, omnipotent. He wants to control the world with this shit. And they have to destroy the gymnasium with what they've brought back from the Fae.
Yeah. And I think it's got to be something organic. I don't think it's a physical item like a book, but it's something organic that they get from their fairy world adventure, because that's a great like end of second act, like transporting to a completely different world, and you're just like lost in it. Over nice. You had it in you all along, Dorothy. The answer was inside you all along, Dorothy. I love that.
I love this so much, like the monkey bone merger between claymation, stop motion and real world stuff with Jerome. It's like Ted, but like, the horror version. And it's so much fun because it's got the stakes, it's got the intention, it's got the obstacle, it's got some great characters, it's got the the crazy dad who's trying to reverse engineer this shit. They've got Jerome who's feels guilty for having brought this into existence and in the first place, and he doesn't want humankind to die off. I think it needs to be that for Jerome, because let's face it, I think it should be humankind can't die off, because if humankind dies off, they die off. Like there is no nomenclature, whatever it is, without nomenclature, without human culture.
Interesting.
And,
Interesting.
I think they have to. They need each other. The two worlds need each other in order to be balanced, in order to survive. And if one dies off, the other one can't survive.
Here's a good way to explain that. It's the gnomes are on this planet as sort of stewards. They're supposed to be taking care of nature and taking care of the human to nature like relationship. And if the humans die off, like they're in deep shit because they kind of failed at their task as guardian angels of like this sort of tentative relationship. And if they have to go back to their world as failures, they're going to be screwed. Like it's just or they'll be banished. You can't come into the world when you mess it up that bad.
This is super fun. I'm really digging. Like at first I was like, how are we gonna, how does this work? And I think through thinking this stuff out, and I'm hoping like everybody watching can see this process unfold and what we think about as far as our bullet points, our hit list of, things we need to have and for the formula. But this is really coming together. I think it's really interesting. How does it? So I think we're well in through Act 2 and Act 3, and we understand like the whole narrative and the whole progression of each arc here. But I wonder how it unfolds and how it ends, right? Like where we left off, we definitely have to keep it open for a sequel, because there is no world where this exists without like a Lawn of the Dead Part 2. It has to happen. So we need to figure out.
Here's something. So I brought up at the beginning, it's like how, so like the younger sister can see the gnome and talk to the gnome whenever she wants, because it's like that innocence of a child thing. The teenage kid can only see him sometimes, like when he's a little bit high, like he can see the gnome moving. Adults, the gnome is frozen. And if an adult is looking at the gnome's frozen. And I think there's this interesting thing that you play with at the end where they're holding like the stone statue of the gnome and they're like yelling at the dad. And
that's great. I love that.
Some sort of moment, whatever the trigger is, breaks and the gnome just goes and blows the antidote in his face or whatever it is, hits him with it.
Maybe he has to like gather power.
They smoke it. Joe, he rips the bong and blows the smoke in his face, and it's the counteractive stuff. And that's the thing.
That's really smart. That's the way, because they're thinking, how are we going to get him to ingest this thing, right? And I think that's a fun little thing. They use the gnome as a bong, like they're like sacrifice. That's interesting too, because in a Ted kind of way, at the end of Ted, where he's like he dies, and he has to see if he comes back. He's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the good of nomenclature and the good of humankind and our existence. So you're going to have to impale me and turn me into a bong. And that's the only way to adjust it. And they're like, and then you have to, and then they have that moment at the end where it's like, he's, we killed, like he's dead. And then he comes back to like, he's actually alive. Like he's able to somehow be alive.
I love this idea that he's like, what are we going to do? We don't have a bong. We don't have anything to smoke it with. And he's like, I'm hollow. I'm hollow when I'm frozen.
It's great. Yep, it's the great twist. It's the epiphany moment.
And like the adults just see this weird like lawn gnome bong, but the kids see like Jerome and he's like,
yeah, he's like, it's great. It's great. And I think we need some mythical stuff like Tinkerbell shit. Like you have to
the fairies. They have to like when they go into
the to get him back to.
Yeah, and I love so Jeremy Taylor said it ends with weeds sprouting in a neighboring town. That's exactly what happens. Is
100% Jeremy. Boom.
everybody's like, "Oh, that was crazy, guys. Thank God we finished it." And then you just see like a neighboring town in the purple flower, like boop,
Well, I think it's the seeds. Like someone mentioned earlier on too, like the seeds, and I think like you see the wind blowing, and it's like the seeds have. You know how
yeah.
in farming, like there's this big thing going on now with like genetically modified crops, and if the seeds blow into your crop, they're like the government owns your land. It's fucked up, like it's crazy. But in this kind of way, the seeds have blown into a neighboring town, and it's
Starting to sprout. I love that, and like, but at the end, let's get crazy with it because I love the idea of like, so you see it sprouting in another town or something, and then like I would love the idea of like a universal style monster, like somehow hinting that that's there. Like the
like
creature from the
like
Black Lagoon just
the
taking a big rip. Like,
Yeah, like the vet or like the yeah, and I think there is like a moment for the Stranger Things kind of Vecna kind of thing that exists, and I think like we hint at it in this world, but I think like there is a thing, a universal monster type thing in the second one that
yeah,
you allude to at the end of the first one. That's like this thing is there. It's the evil of nomenclature, and it's coming for you in part two.
because
You know.
like I think it'd be super funny. Like you see the flower blooming, in the moonlight, and then like the big webbed creature from the Black Lagoon hand comes in and picks it. Like, um, there's something funny
Yeah,
about it. And like the titles can just like Lawn of the Dead is just so funny to me, but you could
it's
have
really
so
good.
many like great titles, um, and a soundtrack that's just going to be slapping.
Oh, it's gonna be killer. I mean, it's a really fun concept. It's unique. Um, it feels relevant. It feels original. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Well,
And I think
there really aren't that many stoner horror movies. There's a
no,
handful. Idle Hands, obviously. Shrooms is one, but
sure,
usually
yeah,
usually there's not a ton of like, and there's always a stoner character for them to kill off later, but for the most part there
yeah,
isn't like a Cheech and Chong of horror.
yeah.
And I think people have tried, and it's either gotten, Evil Bong movies. There's a whole slew of those. But like I think this is a fun way to kind of bridge that gap into something with a little more heart to it and have fun with it. So
Yeah, there's definitely heart here, and I feel like it's a
yeah.
generational kind of movie. Like I think all ages can kind of watch it.
Well,
I don't think this is too far out there where teenage audiences can't watch this, and it can't be like a because
what
of
I
the
hope
kids.
what I hope it does, and like seriously, if you gear this up and you gear the character arcs up right, hopefully it can bridge a conversation between an older generation and a younger generation where you're just like, just don't be an idiot. Don't get caught at school and get kicked out of school over this. Like there's a time and a place and be smart about it. And it's not the devil that everybody says, but you can get in trouble and get fucked up if you're not
Yeah,
in
and
the
I
right.
think you're so right. And I think like in the script in Act One, we strongly need to establish the vibe of this town really, really right off the bat. And I think it's like in the way that Beetlejuice shows the town, and it's like this podunk kind of place, and everybody's like yeehaw. We have to show little select snippets, guys watering the lawn. It's very wholesome, very
Yeah,
poignant. And then it's like you got this family, but like I also think behind the scenes people are sort of repressed, and I
big
think
time.
through the family you show the repression that a town like this in a very puritanical place harbors behind closed doors. And I think as long as we show that in Act One, I think we get in for a really fun ride.
Yeah, and I hopefully it helps normalize like conversations about it and while laughing and having a good time. And you get to play on Reefer Madness tropes. You get to play on the overly stoner tropes. But I think at the end of the day, you just come down to like moderation's key and don't kill your neighbors.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh, this has been so much fun. Big
this
shout
is
out.
a really good one.
The community has been blowing up with some great ideas. Obviously, Michelle, thank you for this idea. All props to that story that we got to run with and have a great time with the community. We got a poster to reveal.
Ooh.
Boom! We go.
Bada boom! Look at that. I love it. I mean, it's put Mondo to shame right here, Aaron. This is this is badass.
Thanks.
Badass.
This was really fun. Fun to put together, and we'll put that out on the social media here probably tomorrow morning, and let everybody take a look. And this is so much fun. We also, Mike, we got some giveaways. What else we got?
Ooh, Mike.
I think. Let me look in the private chat, but I think we're going to give away some blood coin, right? We usually do.
Coin. What is there? We need a code word.
Yeah, let's. I mean, it's nomenclature.
Nomenclature.
Yeah, nomenclature. That is the secret word for some blood coins. So go over to Discord, open up a ticket. Nomenclature will get you some blood coin, and hit up Discord. There's lots of conversations going on. Saturdays, half hour horror with me, even though that name is just a lie. Just a lie.
It's much as a lie as like the David Portnoy, one bite, everybody knows the rules because he's just chomping on the pizza. Like it's become, I think it's an hour and a half with most of the time.
But it's a good time, and that's where We Gnome was born. So come share your ideas. We keep talking movies, having fun, and then of course the 5 unwritten rules. Every week we're dropping those with the Block of Horror on your social media, which has been a fun exercise for us. Super fun, actually. I love doing those because it makes you think about different genres and like try to think of different genres. Like, man, how about that? I love it. We've been having fun there. And then plugs, man. Plug. Pat, plug your shit.
Yeah, go to, check out Screenwriters Podcast. We are probably going to do some more episodes later this year in the fall, but head over to screenwriterspodcast.com, at ScreenwritersPC on Twitter, at Screenwriters Podcast on Instagram. We're all over the place. We've got like almost 60 episodes with amazing horror screenwriters. If you ever wanted to learn about the craft from amazing established horror screenwriters, check it out. We got Brian Usna on there. We got William Malone. We got, Vincenzo Natali. We had amazing guests. So please head over Screenwriters Podcast and check it out.
Of course, my other show, Launchpad Podcast, every other week. Check us out, Facebook, Instagram, and X, and YouTube at Launchpad Pod. Me and my podcasting partner, Matt Corrigan. We talk comic books and just goofy stuff. Our last episode that we dropped was our Valentine's Day episode. We talked about crushes and our favorite movies, TV shows, and comics. Who was the hottest X-Men? It was really fun, and we have some more fun stuff coming up in the next few weeks. And so check us out there. And then, of course, Block of Horror. Thank you to Block of Horror for letting us come out here and spout some goofy stuff and have a good time and share your ideas, and join us next month for when we do this again, and you guys can help us write the next horror movie, because we want to keep working on these and keep building them, and we got some really exciting stuff dropping in the near future.
Yeah, big stuff. Thank you, guys.
Check y'all next time, and we'll see you over on the Discord where we can keep talking.